So I just did 2 DoorDash deliveries this morning between 9:30 and 9:46 in the morning, both containing a lot of alcohol. And I've been thinking about filming this for a while, but if you just give me a minute of your time, you'll understand. It's crazy being on the other side of this and seeing it happen, because you know what's going on. I used to drink a lot. I drank for almost 10 years. I was drunk every single day for 10 years straight, probably. Almost 10 years. And it took me a long time to figure out how to get over that. It took me a long time to figure out how to quit. It took me a long time just to even try to quit. And that was the biggest thing, was trying. Right now, currently, I am probably 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, probably 12, 13 days without nicotine and without vaping. That's the third thing I've quit in this lifetime. I used to smoke a lot of weed. I smoked weed every day, in the morning, the afternoon, at night, all the time. I was stoned all the time for probably 10 years. I was also smoking and drinking while this was going on. But I had a rule. I would only drink on my days off. I wouldn't drink throughout the week, besides Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that eventually changed. And I didn't smoke weed until after work as well. And that also changed. The boundaries I had set for myself eventually dissolved. And I was doing things I never thought I would ever do. I was smoking weed before I'd go to work. I was smoking weed while I was at work. I would drink before I went to work. Eventually, at one point, there were people in the front of house at a certain restaurant, and they would get a cup of like Jack and Coke, or some type of alcohol and Coke or Pepsi, and then that would get passed around the restaurant, and eventually it would make its way to me, and I would drink whatever was left. I would drink before I drove to work. I would stop by the same grocery store and buy a bottle or two before I went home, and then I would try to drink all of it, and then I'd get up and I'd do the same thing all over again, day after day after day. It took me a long time to attempt to quit. It took me many years to finally try to quit. But once you figure out that you have a problem, once you realize that there is a problem, once you understand that you can't do it anymore, once you come to terms with not being in denial and admitting to yourself that it's a problem, then you can change. Then you can start taking the steps to stop whatever it is. Like I said, I smoked weed for a long time, and it started making me paranoid. And that, for me, was enough to stop, because it wasn't fun anymore. Weed was always fun in the beginning. Smoking a bowl, listening to Pink Floyd, drinking vanilla Coke, and eating Doritos. That was a lot of fun. And eventually, it wasn't like that anymore. So I had to quit, and I did. But I think that left like a void. It left a vacuum, and alcohol filled that vacuum. And I still remember the first time. It was a Monday, and I had the rule: I didn't drink Monday to Thursday. And I was driving by a gas station after work, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna buy a couple tall cans just for tonight. It'll just be fun. Well, I did the same thing on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, and then Thursday, and then I drank more Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then same thing the next Monday, and then I was full blown drinking every single night of the week. It took me many years to attempt to quit. Like at first I knew it was a problem for a very long time. I was never in denial about alcohol being a problem, alcohol messing up my life, alcohol causing me to make bad decisions, spending all my money. I was never in denial about any of that. I knew it was a problem. I knew it was an issue, but I was so deep into it that I wasn't able to quit. I couldn't just stop. And if you think I'll start drinking less and less and less, and eventually I'll just stop doing it, that's not going to work, because you're just going to keep drinking. You're just giving yourself a reason to continue drinking. You're just giving yourself a reason to continue doing whatever it is that you're doing. You're just going to do less of it. Well, then you're just going to keep doing it, and then you're going to keep doing more. Eventually, at some point, you're not going to stop. It's not going to stop unless you stop. So for me, I had finally got the willpower, finally got the strength to quit. And I did for probably a year or two. And then I was taking classes at culinary school, and we had a wine class. And at the end of one of the classes, we got to taste the wine. And I did. And then I started buying wine. And my excuse was that I was going to cook with it. And I did cook with it. But I was also drinking it. And then I was back in. This is my second time being an alcoholic. And the second time was a lot worse than the first time. I haven't walked this much in a long time. It actually feels kind of refreshing. No, it's kind of liberating getting this off my chest, I guess, as well. The second time, it was a lot worse than the first time being an alcoholic. And I actually ended up on the floor several times. And after that happens a certain amount of times, and you deal with the fallout afterwards, you realize that you should probably quit. You should probably stop, because you don't want to do that anymore. You don't want to end up at rock bottom, which is where I was headed. I was on a bad path, and I was going to go down. So I was just recently talking to someone the other day, and he said he had a problem with weed. He said he was smoking a lot of weed. And this kind of inspired me to make this as well. But the fact of the matter is that only you can change. Only you can do this. Your friends, your family, unless you live with someone directly. But if you're solo, if you're on your own like I was, living by yourself, no one's gonna be there in the middle of the night. No one's going to be there when you get home. No one is going to be there to help you. This is your battle. This is 1v1. This is you versus yourself. You need to make the decision. You need to take the steps. You need to interrupt the habit, because that's where habits thrive, is in routine. Repetition. Like I said, if I had gone to work that night, I would have drove by the grocery store. I would have went to the grocery store and bought alcohol, even though I knew I shouldn't have. I would have done that, because there's no way I'm going to take a different route home. I would have made a U-turn and went back. So instead, I called in, locked myself in my room, and I went to sleep. And then I got up and I cooked some food and I did some stuff I hadn't done before. And that was the start of my second time being sober. But it's you versus you. If you need motivation, I'm hoping this will help and motivate you. If I can do this, anybody can do this. Literally, because I'm not the person that can have one beer. I'm not the person that can smoke one joint. I'm not the person that had 3 cigarettes a day. I was the person that had the habit of extremes. I was the person that had to do everything as much as possible. So if I was gonna have one beer would lead to 3, would lead to 5, would lead to 8, would be me on the floor at the end of the night, or the room spinning, or running into the backyard to throw up in the grass. Cigarettes, I would just smoke as much as I could all the time, just because that's how I am. And so if I can quit doing these things, even though it took a very long time to do, I still did it. If I can quit doing these things, so can you. You just have to do it. That's the hardest part, is doing it. You don't want to wait. You don't want to take your time. Just stop. You know you need to. You know you have a problem. You know there's something you need to fix. So do it. Stop doing it. Interrupt the routine. Find something else to do.